Well, hello, hello. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I hope you're hard at work, being mindful and choosing to evolve. As you know, there are no manuals for transformation. It's an experience, whether it's personal or it's in the context of your business, an experience that begins with a choice and materializes with a commitment. Our role here at the Academy is to provoke you to realize the aha moments that lead you to your next best version. As usual, we're going to have our uh, wake-up call conversation for about 15 minutes. We'll take a break and go to Q&A and then follow that with the hot seat session with Caroline today. So let's get started. Last wake-up call, we talked about flaws, uh, imperfections, um, less than perfect perceived situations caused by a decision, and it may not be yours. We focused on two contributing factors. One was the decision, who's making it, based on what parameters, what biases, what data, what information, and why. And the perception, which is who is being affected, how is it received? Is it our customers that see that flaw? Is it our team members? Is it who is being affected and who is in that, if you would, chain of events? Um, we talked about this notion that flaws are not necessarily interruptions. They are invitations. They invite awareness and evolution. They invite the leaders to lead, uh, and uh, and it's and we explored how flaws can be a catalyst and not a constraint. A catalyst, not a constraint. And we ended with this notion that it is a choice. Today, I thought we'd talk about finding flaws. Uh, Finding flaws both by taking advice from others, um, and also flaws in those who give us the advice. Bad advice, good advice from those who dish it out. Um, and, that could be coaches, advisors, friends, mentors. Uh, and uh, let's begin with the obvious, the good advice. Good advice obviously leads to increased clarity. It boosts self-efficacy. It drives impactful actions. Bad advice creates confusion and overload. It wastes time and resources. Uh, Bad advice compromises commitment. It compromises commitment and leads to trust erosion. You start losing trust in them, those who are giving you advice, sometimes trust in yourself or in your business. You see, bad advice could push us to seclusion. Over time, it leads us to avoid listening, to avoid taking advice. It's kind of worse than no advice at all. When you get bad advice, you begin to reject all advice. Now, good advice is based on data, experience, hopefully deep experience, evidence, and logic. It's not about opinions. It's concrete and actionable. It's not vague. It's not the motivational stuff. the feel good stuff. Good advice must be tailored to your specific and unique situation. It's not generic. It's not best practices. It's not one size fit all. It's not all of this stuff to say do these three things, or it has to be specific because you are unique and specific. Your business is unique and specific. Good advice drives responsibility for both you and the one who's giving you advice. Um, Now, there's a difference between getting feedback and getting advice. Now, again, sometimes it seems like we're playing with words, but it really words make a difference. The approach makes a difference. Uh, there is there are studies that shows that when you take feedback, it is generally 34%, 35% less effective than if you take an advice. That is, an advice is much more effective than a feedback because it requires responsibility. It requires somebody who knows what they're talking about. It requires honesty. It requires trust. It requires a whole lot of different stuff than, okay, just give me feedback about this. So the level of interest, the level of attention, the level of actionability is reduced. So always look for the why behind the advice. Why is that advice good or bad? Why is it being made? Based on what conditions, situations, and facts? And finally, I suggest, hey, I advise. Don't take an advice unless you can own that advice, that you can make it yours so that you can learn from it. You can apply it again and again. If you know the why, if you trust the source, if you see that it is a viable, actionable advice, then make it yours. And that means there's nobody to blame. You've made a choice. And that increases the effectiveness of that advice. Now, why do good people give bad advice? Well, first, people give generic advice. They generalize. That is, I did this and this and this, so I'll give you advice to do the same. uh, without considering who you are and what you are. This happens in a lot of investment situations, and we can get through to this on the uh, during the Q&A session. It worked for me, so it should work for you. Ignoring your uniqueness, ignoring the market conditions, your business, the people who work for you, how much money you have, how much runway you have, or all of that sort of stuff. Um, it's kind of ignorant, but it's with good intention. It's with a helpful attitude. Uh, Now, there's another problem at times, which you have to be careful about, is advice with a bias. That's what's in it for me that I'm giving you an advice. I may be an expert, but I have an agenda. And again, this you could see in a lot of areas where investors get involved or, or partners get involved and so forth. You see, anyone, anyone can give you advice, and almost anyone does. Um, but not many want to take the responsibility. Take take a business coach. These days, there's always a lot of them. I read something or I saw some post on one of these social media channels that says, "Hey, what do you want to coach about?" And give us a call and we'll get you all the content. We'll get you all the stuff, and boom, within I guess it says 90 seconds or something will make you a coach. Well, I would be caution. I would be cautious about that. Anyways, in sports, a good respected coach must have played the game. However, in business coaching today, you don't have to. You're supposed to ask questions and let you let you self-discover what decisions are or what's good or bad. And the argument is rooted into psychological research and so forth that if you don't make that decision, you know best of your situation, and therefore, if you make that decision, then you own that decision, and the likelihood of driving it to results is higher, and that's valid. And that's valid. Um, in sports, a coach is expected to uh, discover winning edges and direct the team to move forward within that context to drive results. Um, a business coach is not necessarily uh, focused on that. The performance uh, is not about the team, it's about the CEO. A business coach is not necessarily an advisor, but an advisor must be a coach. So your friend who gives you an advice does not necessarily a coach. And a coach is not necessarily someone who can give you advice that is worth it. Now, can everybody give you a piece of advice that you could learn from? Absolutely. Absolutely. But here's the thing. Before taking advice, consider the following. First, is it specific and direct with a path to impact, to outcome? Is the advisor qualified? Is he or she giving you the truth or just being nice, giving you what you want to hear? Are you satisfied? Can you make yourself satisfied with the logic and evidence, the why of that advice? And at the end, can you make it yours without reservation? Can you make it yours? Because then it drives results and you own it and you drive it. Now, Now, if you're looking for a coach, my suggestion is look for a player coach, somebody who's done it, not a feel-good coach. Prioritize what they call directive coaching, someone with knowledge who calls a BS a BS. Now, we're coming to our time. We can explore examples and situations in the entrepreneurial concept or investment concept or personal concept during the Q&A. But before we get there, I'd like to leave you with a thought. Think of uh, think of LeBron James, the uh, the superstar basketball player, or Messi, uh, or Ronaldo, the favorite soccer players. They have a coach. They take advice, but they ignore thousands of spectators who are giving them advice from the stands. As an entrepreneur, a lot of times we have a lot of people on the stands who give us advice. These champions, these champions take those advice and listen to their coaches, and they apply that when it matters during the game in their own unique way at the right time. So the advice is important. How you apply the advice in your unique situation and how you create a repeatable cycle to learn from those advice is again a choice. So with that, let's get to the Q&A session. Let me see if we have some uh, some Q&As, and we do. Uh, so the first one is, I said, do we seek advice to actually change or justify what we already want to do? Such a wonderful question. Uh, this is rooted in what you may call a confirmation bias. So we look for people who see the world in our view in the same way, and we go to them for advice because they give us an advice that sits well with us. This is a basic problem when people find and select coaches. Or who do we go to get advice from? A good advice is not necessarily a confirmation. Now, as I said, it has to drive an impact. It's, oh, you're doing wonderfully. That's great. That's not an advice because it doesn't have the characteristics that we suggested. It doesn't have any impact, direct impact. It doesn't fit the situation, and all that sort of stuff. But you are absolutely right. A lot of times we are looking for advice to justify what we already want to do. Now, some of that in the past, as I mentioned, sometimes we get an advice from some people and we pursue that advice without having it made us really ours or looking at the why to satisfy some folks. This happens with investors quite a bit. You go to a VC, you go to an angel investor and you say, "Oh, you see, you have to do this and this and this and this. And if you were doing this and this and this, we would make an investment." And then you pursue with that dream. Now, they haven't made a solid commitment. They were just saying, in a situation, in another deal 5 years back, or this is what my feeling is. But a lot of times, those ideas don't necessarily drive them to have a responsibility to make an investment. It's just an idea. It's an opinion. So, how do you avoid it? You have to be mindful or activate your mindfulness to be aware of your own biases and to control yourself not to justify what you're doing. Again, taking advice doesn't mean taking advice or listening to an advice. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have to fully implement that advice to the T. It means we learn from that situation, we learn from that advice, and in the game, when we're playing it, just like LeBron James and Messi, when we are in the field playing the game of entrepreneurship, we apply the advice in a way that fits our situation. What do I mean? Next question. What do I mean by making the advice yours? Well, there is there is a notion, as I said, there's lots of studies around this, and if you're familiar with this with the psychologist or psychotherapist, they generally want you to explore your own issues and describe it in a way. And so they lead with a bunch of questions. You'll answer, and then you have an aha moment. And say, ah, I had this issue, and this is how to solve it. Um, so the problem or the situation is examined by you, and then the solution is shaped by you. And if that happens, you have more commitment to executing, and it's more internalized. And advice is kind of the same. The difference is, an advice, if it's coming from the right qualified person who knows you, who understands your situation, allows you to discover the problems faster. The key is, if you find the right problem to solve, the probability of success is tilted in your favor. A lot of times, because of our knowledge, because of our expertise, because of where we come from, or because we're too close to the business or to the situation, we don't necessarily see the problem that needs to be solved. So we solve the wrong problem. Now, so The advice should give us the ability to explore the right problem. But unless we own that advice, the execution part of it would be compromised. And that's why I say you have to make the advice yours. So, what's the best advice you have received throughout your career? Haha. Let me see. Uh, Now I'm going to tell you something that that would reveal that I am an old guy. About it would make it about 40 years ago, probably. A friend of my father um who had a couple of three or four, I don't remember, big businesses. He had probably 100,000 employees in different businesses. Um, uh, and I went to lunch while my father was visiting. And as we were describing at that point, I was a partner, a junior partner at a consulting firm, and I was thinking about some new areas, particularly focusing on M&A stuff and doing leverage buyouts, that's buying companies. And and he asked me, so what do you do, Sid? And I started explaining, hey, I'm doing this and I do consulting and advisory and I'm part of this company and I'm trying to do this. And he said, so how are you doing it? And it says, and I said, well, I'm taking my time kind of step by step while I'm here. I'm structuring this and he said, well, how long is it going to take? I said, probably a year or two. And he looked at me and says, you can never ride a horse halfway. Never ride a horse halfway because the chances of falling is significantly increased. So that has been a life-changing advice for me, and I've made it mine. Um, okay. Um, how can a founder know when to hire an advisor? Um, you the word hire is a bit loaded. When should you take advice or be open to advice? All the time. All the time. Now, again, I'm saying get the advice. I'm not saying own the advice. You get the advice and you see if the source is right, if it makes sense, if the why makes sense, if it matches my situation, and yes, then you have to own it. So getting advice is one thing. Now, when do you hire an advisor? Generally, when you're serious about transformation. You have made a commitment. If Let's put it this way: when you have made a commitment that you're ready for the next stage of transformation. Now, advice is different. You can hire because your sales is not working. You can get a consultant or somebody who helps you with the mechanical pieces of how do you fit or fix or improve your sales process, or someone who knows or has done, I don't know, production in China and knows how to do that and how to design a product that's more cost. Those are different kind of advice. But if you're looking at a transformational and consistent advice from someone who's helping you, guiding you in a way as a partner, not as a missionary, if you would. It's when you're serious about that transformation. What is the criteria to seek advice? In other words, when should we seek advice? I think I just respect. You should always seek advice. Here's the thing: if you get to a problem and you're stuck, that's where most people say, "Oh, let me go ask some advice." But there is a reason you got to that problem, and it's the journey that took you. It's identifying the wrong problem, being ignorant of discovering the right problem, having a limited notion, trusting yourself too much, which is trusting is good, but trusting yourself too much often leads to identification of the wrong problem. So by the time you get to a problem, it's too late. It's too late. So when should you ask for advice? All the time. What is the criteria? The criteria is not I have failed, so let me find an advisor. The criteria should be I am ready to evolve, I am ready to transform, I am ready to push next to stage, and I am open mentally. I am open to reconsider. I am open to reconsider, to revise, or double down. But double down on a strategy, on an approach, but based on confirmed or increased probability of success. Okay, so we've got a few more. Uh, Sid, what is the worst advice you ever followed, and what did it teach you? The worst advice. I don't know if it's the worst, uh, but it was bad advice. Uh, it was bad advice. In one of the companies that I had started. Actually, I was on the board of, and then I became the CEO of it. Um, we were doing some unstructured data analytics, and as we were doing it, when we would tell people, "Here's what we're doing, and this is the insight we can extract from the data," and blah blah blah, everybody would say, "Well, you're unproven. How do you stack up against Nielsen or against other sources of information that already exists?" And that was the advice. And what we tried to do, what I tried to do, was try to map what we do against others. And that was an absolutely bad thing because we were so far superior in a different way. And I was trying to take what we have and shove it in the context of what existed, which was inferior. And by doing that, we had a bunch of different meetings and times and so forth that was wasted. And the minute we changed that and we believed in what we were doing and we were able to prove what we are doing has value directly with customers in real situations without falling into the trap of confirming validation because it looks like somebody else's outcome. Um, Hope that made sense. We're at time. Let's take one more question very quickly. Does the outcome determines whether an advice was good or bad, or does the learning matter more? I think you know what I would say. I think the learning matters more. The learning matters more because you have understood the why. The key of a good advisor is not to dish you out with. So you're not calling, for example, me to fix a dishwasher, so I can fix it, and then it's fixed, uh, and the outcome is good. Or if I tell you, hey, dishwashers operate this way. And there is 17 different versions of it, and this idea also applies to washing machines and to dryers and to other things. That is, a business has multiple dimensions. It's not just one thing. If the advice that you could take is applicable in multiple dimensions, I would call that real good advice. I would call that a real good advice. So to me, the learning is more important. But in a lot of times, I know people focus on the outcome because it took them somewhere. Now, the fact that one advice worked doesn't mean all advice will work from that individual. So again, advice has a unique nature to it, and that is it should be independently evaluated depending on the situation we're in, the business we are in, and who we are, and the timing we apply that. Okay. So with that, let me ask the team to give us a short break with a video, and then when we'll come back, we'll spend time with Caroline on the hot seat.
Friday. Our members show up for the wake-up call. It's where fresh ideas spark, perspectives shift, and you walk away with something new to think about. And then we roll right into the hot seat. where real challenges get unpacked and real breakthroughs happen. But here's the secret, the wake-up call. That's just the tip of the iceberg. Once you step inside Anabasis Academy, you'll unlock your full dashboard, which is your gateway to everything the Academy offers, all in one place. It starts with the archives of every wake-up call and hot seat we've ever done. So if you miss a live session, or you want to relive that one insight that stuck with you, it's all right there, ready when you are. You'll also find our conversational collections, curated deep dives on powerful themes, weaving together different perspectives so you can explore them at your own pace. Then there's the Expert Circle, in-depth discussions with accomplished leaders and innovators, sharing the kind of hard-earned wisdom you won't find in a book or quick video. And of course, the Public Square, the heart of our community where ideas keep evolving even after the calls end, and where conversations often spark entirely new insights. You can even take all of this value with you on the go through downloading our mobile app. So the Academy is always at your fingertips. So if you've enjoyed what happens here live, just wait until you see the rest. We can't wait to welcome you inside.
Well, hello, Caroline,
Hi,
and welcome to the hot seat.
thank you for having me.
It is a pleasure to share your wisdom with us.
I'm not sure about wisdom, but I'm happy to share.
We all have a little bit. Nobody has a
Exactly.
lot, including me. So, Caroline, what do you think about this taking advice business? Before we get deeper into your thing, have you had an experience of a bad advice or a good advice?
Tons of experience of bad advice. And it's very precedent at the moment. I'm getting advice from all quarters, and it's knowing who. I think you hit the nail on the head when you were talking about what is the reason they're asking. They're giving you this advice, and quite often it's not the reason that you're going to them for advice. And it is a minefield. And I think in particular, bad advice is a volume game. Good advice is like finding that diamond in the rough. The best advice, just throwing it out there, that someone gave me was, um, what happens if you change your thinking to, but what if it does happen? And it was the first time really I was cutting through the negative, whereas most people were saying, well, you're going to fail, you're, etc. So, I think it's a very important thing, and you've got to know what you're asking before you actually take on any of the advice, because otherwise the answer is not, be
Do you,
clear.
but do we know the question or how to place it before we get the advice? A lot of times we don't know the question.
We should at least have more thought than just throwing out a question, especially when it comes to our business. I mean, it's like I could ask a million questions of you right now, but not all of those questions are really what I'm focusing on. So I might not know the exact question. I might not know exactly where it sits, but I know that the ballpark, I know where I need to think, because it's a question or it's an issue that has been really hard to dampen down. It's been there and it keeps resurfacing so many times that to me is my trigger to, okay, you're not solving this yourself. It's not going away. You really need to start asking the questions of others to see whether um, you can get a wider lens on this.
Hmm. So, Caroline, tell us what you do, and then I wanna see if maybe I can give you some advice, and you can ignore it again. So here's
I'll
I
listen.
I tell people it's okay to ignore an advice if you listen and you learn, oh, this wasn't fitting my thing. But if it's against what you believe, but there is merit to it, you should consider it because it could make a difference. So tell us what you do in simple language that we can understand.
Perfect. Well, thanks for the opportunity. So, I am the founder of No Pause, which is an app for women over 40 who are in menopause. It's not a period tracker of any kind, and it's not a healthcare system. This is about data. It's about understanding, owning your data, and turning that into advocacy when you are faced with healthcare decisions and times. 1.1 billion women worldwide are in menopause, and on average, they're given 15 minutes to talk to doctors about menopause that has 50 symptoms. Now you've got to try and wade through your memory and think, well, I have a bad shoulder here, and my last period was 6 months ago. And that's 14 minutes of your appointment gone. So no pause brings that data in so you're prepared. It prepares a health passport for you that you can show to the doctor. And not only that, it then gives you talking points if you're feeling dismissed. And this is the wedge for a larger platform for women over 40 that's going to go in their own. So it will cover career, health, finances. And the running theme through it is Genevieve, who is an AI coach. Now, it's not a generic coach. I have trained this AI on 30,000 menopause trigger words. And the beauty of it on the platform is it cross-pollinates. So if you're looking on the career platform and you say, oh, I'm stressed about Friday's interview, it can pull from the menopause data and say to you, well, you have been talking about bad sleep as well and anxiety. Perhaps this is an issue for you. Why
Okay,
don't you
so
talk to the
so so
doctor?
so let me see. So you have an app, and this app can be used by billions of, and this is a persistent problem or issue or situation that it doesn't end by nature. It comes in
Uh-huh.
there's always a new batch, and that's a good thing about a business. If you have always recurring problems that happens, and I understand some of these could take a few years, some of them take longer. So but you mentioned two or three different things, and I'm trying to drill
Mhm.
down on who really your audience is. And it may sound a little silly, but you
No.
said this is for them to go to the doctor with a prepared conversation.
Yes.
Is it designed for that event, or is it something that they can use on a daily basis? It gives them advice, and which one is it? Who is your customer? Is it the doctor who wants to get better information, or is it the patient?
It's definitely not the doctor. Now, it should
Okay.
help the doctor talk to the patient. It's for the woman. It doesn't necessarily mean she needs to go to the doctor. Quite
Ah,
often, this is something perhaps I should have stressed. I built this for myself. I built this for myself because I was starting to notice, for example, I had a bad shoulder, and on Thursdays in particular, I had terrible hot flashes. So I started to look at what was going on. I went to a number of doctors who dismissed me. Lose 10 pounds and the pain will go away in your shoulder, or you're stressed.
gen say generic advice,
Generic.
best practices. See, that's my problem.
Absolutely, and especially in women's healthcare, on average, there's only 7 hours dedicated to menopause on a curriculum in a medical school, which is horrendous, really. Um, so I used it to understand my own symptoms. I learned, for example, that if I'm drinking white wine, I'm more likely going to have hot flashes. So, okay, I've got an actionable thing that I can do. I can look at my monthly calendar of my symptoms and say, oh, um, when my activity levels are particularly high, I'm more prone to sleep
So it's
issues.
kind of a journal of events that triggers something that's not, and then with some suggestions, are you with the AI giving them suggestions of, hey, this is okay. So
Yeah.
I got it. This is a good business in
Mhm.
because it's recurring. There should be hopefully your audience should have a couple of years of time on your platform, and then you always have new batches of folks that are coming in. So the question is, you've launched this.
Um, right at this precise moment, we're in review with both Google and Apple for approval on the app stores.
Have you tried this with women actually in live
Yes.
situations? Okay.
Yeah. I've tried it
And
with three beta groups, 100 users.
100 users. And how many stayed with you?
73% stayed.
For how
Um,
long?
For the first group is now at 5 months, and then it's 4 months and then 3 months.
Okay, the
So
one that are 5 months, 73% of them are.
73%.
Okay. And what do they say is the most benefit that they get?
We originally thought it was going to be the AI coach. And it wasn't. And at the time, the AI coach, when they started, was a very
Because
generic one,
because it provided them false
or just very
information.
generic that you could Google
Generic.
yourself. But that's why went
Again,
back.
I want to stress the generic advice problem. You see,
Oh, exactly.
that's a
Exactly.
generic advice problem because people take it and then say, well, this is generic. I knew that. Why the hell do I need to do that? I'll tell you, I forgot about one of these things when we were having the Q&A. Here's one generic advice. I was on a board. I was the CEO of a company which I launched. This is again 20, 30 years ago, and I had a board, and the board had very accomplished folks on it. One of them was with Cisco, and at the time Cisco was like
Mhm.
the thing, and this guy was one of the directors. And I remember in one meeting he says, "Sid, it's all about fierce execution." Well, as if I don't know, success is about execution. But
Yeah,
he was pounding his hand, but there was no specificity to it. There was no color to it, and then he would use John Chamber as the
Mhm.
witness that John Chambers says. It's yeah, it's you could read 1,000 books and it says all about execution. Who know? I mean, if anybody ignores that, they shouldn't be running a business.
Agreed. Agreed.
But
Yeah.
generic. So generic stuff doesn't sit well and doesn't you can't own that generic stuff.
No,
And
which is why, I went back in. We already, I was already building this AI system, but I thought, it was on the back burner, right, because I wanted to get the product ready. But then through the beta test, it was very obvious that it couldn't be on the back burner if I wanted the product to be ready. It had to be a non-generic AI. So
okay.
that's where I spent my time. And
So let me ask you a question.
Mhm.
You mentioned you have to get the product ready.
Yes.
What is the product?
It is, well, the product is the app, but I think that's too simplistic. It's an AI,
Uh,
yeah, it's an AI powered menopause companion.
uh, is that the product or is that the way it's packaged?
Well, that's the description, really. I mean, it's
What is it? What is it? See,
Mm.
if I get thirsty, you give me
Hmm.
water and it solves my thirst.
Absolutely.
But the product is this bottled water.
Yeah.
So what is what is the thing? What is the relevance? What is it that what reason are you addressing? What problem are you solving? And what is it that what is the product that I really want to pay for? I don't want to pay for the bottle. I want to pay for what's in the bottle.
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's really demystifying this um menopause. On average, women are already spending 20,000 over the cycle of it. So this is about demystification, and the product really is like to bring the data, it's clarifying the data into
Is
real
it?
world solutions.
But I don't. But my problem of the pain of all of those situations is not a clarification problem. It's it's a pain. It's the hot flashes.
It really is a pain.
So again. So you're looking at the symptom, and if you're looking at the symptom when you want to sell it, when you want to convince people and say, "Oh, this clarifies or demystifies," I don't want to be demystified.
Okay.
That's not what I'm paying for.
Uh-huh.
What are they paying for? So I know this is I'm using this
No,
as a
this is really
situation.
good. Uh, what are they paying for? This is a really good question. I guess empowerment. If I wanted to put something, it's advocacy, empowerment, and taking control of your own healthcare.
I think you're getting close.
Okay.
I like this better because here's the thing. An event called the menopause, and
Hmm.
obviously I don't know much about it except what I've seen my mom and my friends are going through. Uh, an event triggers a loss of control. The sameness of the past is gone, and there is a new situation.
Yes.
So you are giving them the control back. And that's why they want to pay you, because they want control.
Yes.
They had control. The nature caused them to lose control.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. I like that. Because
Now,
it is about control.
now, now think about how do you
Mhm.
package the product? How do you present it? How do you, how do you look for money? Where do you look for money? And what would cause them to continue to be using, just downloading it? I mean, when you said 73%, I question that, by the way.
Uh-huh.
I would question that. I think that's a statistics that has been probably a little bit tortured.
No, I mean it's a genuine one, but it's a very small marketing group.
And
So
and and they're all your friends, and you're
and
going
they
back to them,
actually they're
and
not friends,
they're not friends.
but they were from a group of women on an online forum who are actively looking.
I see. I
Yeah,
see.
so I
Okay.
mean they would just like give us something and we will stick through it. So yes, I do know.
Okay. Now,
Um,
when you say how often do they go to this app?
once daily to log symptoms is the most common one.
And 73% of them have been doing that for 5 months.
Yes, yes. Mhm. I
And
mean,
why
one
are you using the other 27%?
So the community section, the research section, there's a song, there's statistics. We use the SWAM report. So for example, if you're a woman who has an autoimmune disorder, or you're black or you're Asian, there are different things that affect you during menopause. So there's a good like the learning section is being used quite a lot. The health passport, which is the doctor mode one, is being used very regularly, and that's being the standout one. Um,
And that's why you went to that. Let me tell you, you went to that as
because
an
it's in
opening. Okay.
yes, because every single user who has used that has used the health passport and actually called it out in a post interview focus group or a survey as being the feature that
Do
they
you
feel.
generate a report for them to take there?
Yes, well, you can either email it to yourself, it produces a PDF, or there's a doctor mode on the phone. So you can
Hmm.
cut through the noise and just literally just show that. My own doctor, when I showed it to my doctor for the first time, it was like appointment number 6, I think. And I showed my doctor my own health report, and he said, "Oh, well, you need to be on HRT." Now, I'd been turned down 3 times from that because my symptoms were anecdotal. I would say I'm having a lot of hot flushes. When was your last one? Yesterday? It's like I didn't have that. Whereas the doctors we're finding are much more responsive to data,
Okay.
which,
Do
yeah.
you think, okay, so the learning piece that they're searching is mostly active. The doctor piece is active. What else do you have there?
We have obviously the symptom severity, uh, where you not only log your symptoms, you log the severity, and it creates a heat map to show you what days of the week, that could be tied in as well to any medication you're taking. And then
And that's not being used much.
no, it's being used daily. Everything goes into that heat map.
Okay.
That's where
So
we're
what is
putting
it
that.
that's not being used? That's what feature do you have that's not being used?
At the moment, it's our community forum, but that's because we have had closed users who, how many times can you ask the same question? So, um, I
So is
do
the
think there's
community about
something.
asking questions, or is it about supporting each other to go through situations?
Is about supporting each other going through situations. And I do think that one of the reasons it's not really working is A, we haven't got it right yet. I know that. But secondly, because this beta group came from a group where they were
The-
supporting each other through the situation. So why would they shift to that?
so what is the
Yeah.
biggest problem that you think they're claiming they have?
being listened to without the data. Women are feeling particularly dismissed and invisible. And there are plenty of like period trackers on the market or fertility trackers who have added menopause. It's very much, but they don't want to be an add-on. So they're feeling dismissed. And especially we are talking about an age of women who are digitally literate who are coming into this. They have their own buying power. They are their own identity. So being dismissed is the first one, and being treated as an add-on, and also ran is one of the ways one of the users described it. Yeah.
Hmm.
So,
Okay, so this is wonderful. You started with an experience that usually that if you have the pain, you see the pain, you feel the pain. You find people who have the similar pain, and the market is pretty big. You don't need to have a super duper computer analyze the market for you. Any idiot would know that this is a big
exactly.
market. Uh, and it seems like you are addressing this control issue, which I like, although you're ignoring it. But I would say that's my advice is explore that.
Okay.
That's that's what will make you relevant because that's
Okay.
what people are losing and they want to get it back. And how do you build now the features and capabilities to support that element? To say now you're back in control. You got control. You right.
Yeah.
So and then the
Yeah.
community is supporting you to have control. Maybe you even have external doctors that can also do. You don't have to wait to go to your own doctor, but there's analysis that somebody does and say, hey, you may be a candidate. When you go there, tell them I need this.
That's actually a really smart move. Yeah, I've steered clear up to now of any sort of real healthcare claims, because we're not.
No, no, no. You're not a
Yeah.
healthcare claim. You have people that you send this to, and if they upgrade their thing,
Yeah.
you send a report to a doctor, you pay them, and they would look
100%.
at
Yeah.
it. This is a doctor. It's an OBGYN doctor. It's an expert in this thing, and they would look at the report, and they say, hey, you may be a candidate for this and this and this.
That's
So
smart. Yeah.
now they go into the doctor again, having control.
With the
Again,
data with
think
this.
about. I'm just thinking out loud. I'm not shoving. I'm not shelling out all sorts of features. What I'm saying is, if you focus on what the relevance is to them, and the reason they come to you is that they've lost control and they need to control back. So anything that gives them control back.
Yes.
Okay, they want to be listened to, not just because to be listened to. They want to be
No.
listened to because they want the control back. So that would be my suggestion. So now,
Okay.
what has been your greatest challenge getting here? What has been what has been the challenge?
Okay.
What is
Real
it?
talk.
What is it that you would change?
Yeah. Real talk. My biggest challenge is I'm 54 years old. I'm a female tech founder. I'm being dismissed myself. I'm in the category of a woman.
Who's dismissing you?
I've been in rooms with potential funders who just haven't got it. They dismiss the lived experience for the young. I mean, I've been told like point blank from somebody that, why would I back a 54-year-old at the end of their career instead of a young person? So
Because the 54-year-old
lived
can drive
experience.
this to success. And if you
Absolutely.
and if you and if the question is my age, then you don't understand the market. I would get up and leave, and I would say you're an idiot. I was in the wrong room to begin with. So this is the thing. This is a big problem. The problem is that we think all money is created equally and it's green and it's going to get it is not. That's that question is eroding trust. This is exactly what I'm saying. That question is eroding trust in you, and you're saying as a 54-year-old woman founder.
Yeah, it knocks your confidence. I
So
mean, I have to be
absolutely.
honest.
So listen, I wouldn't question you because you're a woman. So you shouldn't question you because you're a woman. But But they did this in a way that when you go into a room, now you are conscious about I'm a woman.
Yes, of course.
Okay? So bad move on their part, right?
Mhm.
But they don't care. So this is, and the thing is, you're 54 years old. So what do I do? Should I go to a 10-year-old because he's younger,
Talk
that
about menopause.
has a lot of energy? Who should I go to? Or some
Yeah.
some kid out of college who has never experienced menopause? And then they
Yeah.
come and hire you to give them advice on what menopause is. Okay, I've experienced it. So here's the point. My point is picking up an investor is more important who that person is. And I think we had a conversation about this on the last hot seat. Uh, and we drilled down on this. So I would, if you haven't listened to that, I would encourage you to listen to that because we
Yeah.
had a similar conversation. But this is where advice can trust your erosions. It can it can
Yeah.
it can erode the trust, and that's a big bad advice.
Absolutely. And tying back to what you were saying before in the wake up call. Now, one of the things is I have walked away from full funding twice because they just would not have, they didn't get it and they would have steered it in the wrong direction. One of them, it was sort of like the terms and everything, but the second one, it's how they wanted to position us. Um, and then the advice I got from people is, well, you can't walk away from money when you're, pre-seed. Well, yes, I can.
And
But
you should. That was wise.
yeah, okay.
Now, if you walk away from the money because you are bullheaded, that's different.
Oh no.
Okay, and by that I mean there is this idea of founderitis, which is an art. I call it a disease of the founders that say my way or highway. My way or highway doesn't work.
Yeah.
But if their reasoning of why they want to position it this way or that way made sense and had logic, and it was a mean to an end that was your going, then you should entertain it.
Yes. Yeah.
Then
No,
it's
this,
not bad. Then it's not bad money. It's smart money that's getting you from where you are because this play doesn't necessarily work because I know the market and I know this. That is different
yeah.
than trying to make you something different.
Yeah. No, this
So
wanted to
what have you done
specifically
about
make
it?
us mad.
So so so
Mhm.
we've got about a couple of minutes.
Yep.
So tell me what did you or are you doing about it?
I went back to the drawing board and really started to look at investors, looking at specifically who they've invested in before. I started to look at female investors um, and just be more targeted. At the start, you're told, you've got to go out there, you've got to do 100 emails to investors, and then you'll get this and this. That actually doesn't necessarily work. And I've wasted a lot of time. So now I'm really creating a list and thinking about relationships as I go into
Yeah.
fundraising.
So again, we're at time. We have this time limitation that I got to cut off the session. But here's what I would recommend to you. What you're saying is absolutely critical. That is, find the people who invest in you because of their own reasons. This is what I say about customers. Customers buy because of their own reasons, not because what they have. And if
Mhm.
you find those people, they will invest in you because it maps to their desires. This idea that whatever, if I have 100 people or 10,000 people on top of the funnel, I can get more is just like, hey, if I go to every door and I knock on the door and say, would you like one of these? And would you like one of these? Then eventually I'll have more. That
Yeah.
is foolish. It's a waste of time, particularly when it comes to early stage. With that, Caroline, I am honored to have you on our
Thank you.
session. You have taught us a thing or two, and also for the rest of you out there, thank you for joining us as a learning partner. Until next time, don't downplay the value of good advice, but be careful, very careful about bad advice. And I hope that you explored the academy and what's there more than just our wake up call and hot seat sessions. Thank you again. Until next time.
Thank you.
It's time to evolve. Download the app by scanning the QR code and join the community that thrives on growth.